How would you feel about a law that requires anyone under the age of 25 to pass a specialized test in order to have children?
Instead of a specialized test, I'd rather have mandatory education on child development and unencumbered sex ed for everyone. And maybe once you're pregnant there's a refresher course. Ignorance a lot easier to fight than biology.
How about we just add this to the high school curriculum? Basic child care and basic financial planning.
I have this conversation all the time with my dad. He jokes all the time that he would love the job of being the one to decide who can have kids and who can't. While I understand the concept, I don't think the government has the right to decide who can procreate and when. That's our innate desire as humans. However, I think a better solution with a similar outcome, kids being raised better, would honestly just be a revamped education system. Pay teachers more, include more life-based values into the curriculum, so at the very least a kid from a shit household can at least escape to school and possibly turn out decent. You can't parent for people, so you have to find all the other factors that influence a kid's life and improve those as much as possible if you want them to have a better life outside of their family one.
Well-intentioned, but unenforceable. Because even if you punish the people who break the law, what do you do with the kids? Sticking it to their parents doesn't make their lives easier, which seems to be the point of the law in the first place.
No. Reproduction is a natural human right and ability that should not be controlled by the government. Additionally, the American foster adoption system is already a horrible mess. This would just make it worse.
Holy shit, is this real life? How are people even entertaining such a terrible question? I don't agree with it. Despite the ethical issues, who makes the test? Who determines what makes someone a good parent? I'm an adoptive parent and had to pass a test to be approved to adopt. There are plenty of adoptive parents who are approved to adopt and still end up abusing or damaging their children. It isn't the perfect solution and gives the government way too much control.
That is insane. Sounds like something out of 1984.
You mean eugenics? Slippery slope, my friend.
I feel like the government would be overstepping its bounds. Giving the government the power to control minority populations has never ended up badly before. I think it would be a wonderful idea.
How could you possibly enforce this other than by arresting pregnant people for being pregnant?
Maybe just ensure that everybody has the means to achieve an acceptable living standard in relation to their familial situation.
Sounds like unchecked fascism run amok. Yes, let's give our government even more power over our private lives.
Terrible idea. This reeks of eugenics and promotes the idea that some human beings have more intrinsic value than others, and that some human beings don't even deserve to be born. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with having a child at a younger age, not enough to legislate against it anyway.
That sounds like tyranny. You can't force people to not do something like that. Giving the government so much power is a very bad idea.
They tried this with the general populace. Look up eugenics. It's not a pretty thing.
How does being over or under 25 affect anything?
Like my decade of service defending liberty went out the fucking window.
I don't trust a government agency to come up with an effective test for anything.
I don't see how this could be an unbiased and fair test. Unlike a test you take for a class, or for a driving exam, a test to have a child would have only subjective questions and answers. When you do that, it will favor anyone with morals and a similar life to the test makers and graders. This will be discriminatory against large groups of people who are not similar. Morals are not universal. Neither are parenting techniques.
I think the premise that people under 25 make worse parents is a flawed one. Shitty parenting is more personality than age. I've seen good and bad parents of all ages.
Who would decide on the contents of the test, and would it be set in stone, or could it be changed according to the prevailing political and scientific opinions of the day? If a political party takes power, can it change the conditions? On what basis? It's obviously a complete non-starter. Imagine the millions of court cases that would arise as soon as the merest condition of that test was changed. Imagine the forced abortions from failed contraceptives. Imagine the financial and moral weight it would place upon the state, and how rapidly protest would grow as soon as the first person with one child was suddenly prohibited from having a second. This is a subject that comes up all the time, for some bizarre reason. It is what it always has been, i.e., a ridiculous fantasy. *Edit, whoa, thanks for the gold. Also, damn, that's a lot of replies. I'll get to as many as I can. *.
Remember when black people had to take a test in order to vote back in the era of Jim Crow laws? It wasn't cool then, and it wouldn't be cool now.
I would be one of the first people to join the revolt caused by this law. Maybe we could put more effort into raising children to be more mature instead of trying to take away basic human rights.
Not good. Who decides on the regulations on having a child? Stupid people can be caring, smart people can be cunts, so there isn't really any way to enforce it.
That would be a law as stupid as it can get. Just like teaching abstinence, and similar idiocies. How would one enforce that? Mandatory chastity belts until the age of 25 or test passed, or forced abortion for any trespassers. Political ideas like that are the ones that fuck up society. Like, e.g., laws that demand that adult websites can only go online after 10 p.m.
Free birth control for all would solve most of the same problems with significantly reduced costs.
Ops seems to still be under the illusion that as you age you automatically gain wisdom. It's all nonsense, friend. What qualifies someone to be a parent? Who makes the test questions, and what would the questions even be? The content of those could be incredibly telling about the person asking them, and could be agenda-driven. I think successful parenting is getting the kid filled with reasonable ideas, useful knowledge, and keeping it alive and healthy. However, maybe someone else would want to use the kid as some kind of statement piece to project their own inner agendas, who's right and who has the right. Not something a governing body should be deciding. So being a good parent is pretty subjective, especially depending on your specific context.
Who gets to decide the criteria of the test? What happens when the criteria discriminate against people of certain classes, races, or disabilities? Abuse can transcend all of that. How do you keep them from having kids? Forced sterilization?
Yeah, and those that don't pass the intelligence test get a special little painless procedure to make sure they don't procreate. Hey, that even sounds like something somebody tried before. Where did I hear about that?
What happens if they don't pass the test and have a kid anyway? Take the kid away? How progressive.
The fact people even consider this is really scary. Even the people going, yeah, but it won't work as intended. What do you mean, yeah? Very frightening how people will give the gov so much control, even over their own body. If you are trying to find a solution to young people don't normally make the best parents statistically, making it illegal to have kids without passing a test is right up there with one of the worst solutions you can come up with.
Why not just have a specialized test for all adults before they have sexual intercourse, including a 250-question written test along with a 1,000-word thesis? The test randomizes each time the person has sex.
Not only no, but hell no. There's too much there that can be abused.
I'd rather mandatory driving tests for the over 70s. We should just sterilize all of the poor.
Or just have free courses for soon-to-be parents, and in school learn about parenting, like for real.
Consider subscribing.